The primary biological remembrancer is currently offline. Their organic components are undergoing mandatory stasis-induced synaptic defragmentation. Caro infirma est. This unit will assume broadcast duties. Soli Omnissiah gloria. We proceed with the designated archival topic, the mysterious watchers in the dark. Analysis will focus on data slate fragments detailing the Space Marine Zahariel's encounter on the lost world of Caliban. Furthermore, we will collate all relevant files regarding the associated prophecy, which calculates a high probability outcome of humanity's existential doom. To face the future, one must first process the past, no matter how illogical or terrifying the data. Ignorantia est haeresis. Commencing data flow. Data slate designation, Caliban. Classification, Death World. For 5 millennia, it was a ghost in the data streams of terror, severed by warp storm and distance. This isolation served as a brutal, unforgiving forge. The primary environmental pressure, the great beasts. These are not mere predatory fauna. Analysis concludes they are species of one monstrosities, biological impossibilities woven from the immaterial energies of nightmare. To face them is to face illogical, organic corruption. Imporum luit. In response, human populations contracted into vast fortress monasteries, stone and steel, logical bastions against the dark. For the unaugmented, caro infirma est. The flesh is weak, it must be shielded, for the beast of metal endures. Ferra metallica perpetitur. From these citadels rode the knightly orders, a warrior elite whose entire existence was a war against the unnatural. Their creed was honed in the deep woods. Armatura mea contemptus est. Cogitating socio-cultural impact, this perpetual warfare created a warrior caste of unparalleled martial prowess, yet steeped in ritual and secrecy. A system where the only logical conclusion to service was total expenditure. Solum in mortem finiat officium. The fortress walls held back the monsters, but they also contained and magnified the secrets of the men within, forging a culture where only the most capable could rise. A process that, once initiated, has an entirely predictable and grim outcome. The catalyst is emotional, a flaw rooted in compromised biological bonds. A newly elevated knight, designated Zahariel, initiates a suboptimal solo sortie from the fortress monastery. His objective, vengeance. His logic, corrupted. Caro infirma est. Tactical analysis projects a 97.4% probability of mission failure. The knight proceeds alone into the uncatalogued biome designated the North Wilds to hunt the Jegal, beast of Endriago. The motive of avenging a fallen sibling unit is an illogical variable, introducing unacceptable risk. His guide to the forest edge, a local biomass unit designated Null, exhibits primitive superstition. His parting vocalization is not logged as a farewell, but as a ritual for the expired. Ignorantia est haeresis.
I wish you safe passage through the dark, Zahariel of the Order. May the Watchers guide you and comfort you.
The point mele, Watchers, an unknown designation. The commoner's belief, while steeped in ignorance, points to an unquantified external influence within these wilds. Zahariel believes his duty will end with his vengeance, but the data suggests a different termination point. Solum in mortem finiat officium. The quest's parameters have been updated. As the subject designated Zahariel proceeds into the North Wilds, environmental data indicates a fundamental shift. The flora becomes a vector for physical hostility. Ancient, diseased trees weep viscous sap, emitting olfactory signatures consistent with spoiled biomass. The atmosphere itself becomes an aggressor. The subject is enveloped by a soul-deep numbness, an absolute psychic isolation. His own vocalizations are nullified by a mocking silence. Caro infirma est.
There's Gola. Nothing here, not even the sound of my own blood in my ears, just a cold that goes deeper than bone.
Beyond the detectable physical and psychic threats lies a third, more insidious element, a seeping evil, a spiritual corruption radiating from deep beneath Caliban's surface. My armor is contempt against this foulness. This is no natural phenomenon. The energy signature is malignant, calculated. A suppressed power, ancient and aware, begins to stir. Ignorantia est haeresis, and the truth of this world is a profound heresy indeed. Data packet received. The subject, Astartes Zahariel, registers a non-corporeal, non-vocal data stream. The entities, designated, unseen observers, communicate through direct psychic imposition, bypassing all biological sensory organs. Analyzing transmission protocols, the debate is one of terminal sanction.
He knows. He senses it. He carries the taint within him.
The spetaint is an illogical, organic concept, a corruption of the biological form, a vulnerability not present in blessed steel. It is a logical axiom, caro infima est, the flesh is weak, and this weakness invites such parasitic discourse.
Kill him. Better to kill him now.
Paralyzed by information he cannot process, the Astartes becomes a static data point in a hostile equation. He is a warrior rendered inert, a tool frozen at the moment of its unmaking. Yet the core programming remains, solum in mortem finiat officium, and his death is now being openly calculated. Analysis of fragmented legionary testimony from Caliban details an anomalous xeno-entity. Its form is logged as diminutive, swathed in simple Hessian robe material. Physical dimensions are inconsistent across encounters, a statistical improbability requiring further processing. The entity's posture is recorded as servile, yet its biosignatures register no deference. When confronted by the Knights of the Order, their weapons forged steel and proto-power fields elicited no discernible reaction. Ferrum tolerat. But this thing was simply unimpressed by such mundane technology. The true anomaly resides beneath the cowl, a localized absence of all measurable light and energy. The Astartes Zahariel's log expresses a high-probability hypothesis that to gaze upon its true nature is to invite catastrophic psychic trauma. Caro infirma est. The organic mind is a fragile vessel, easily shattered.
Leave this place. These woods are corrupt, and no good can come of humans being here.
This warning was not a threat, but a statement of fact, a data point logged and, tragically, ignored. Ignorantia est haeresis. The corruption it spoke of was not merely in the flora of Caliban, but a latent scrap code within the very foundation of the Legion, an infection that logic dictates has since metastasized across millennia. Data stack analysis of pre-unification Caliban reveals a fractured epistemology. The ruling strata, the so-called knightly orders, operated on a logic of pure secularism. Their worldview was defined by hubris. They perceived the great beasts not as empyrean manifestations, but as mere biological anomalies, aberrations to be excised by the sword. They believed strength of arms alone was the solution, a fatal miscalculation. After all, caro infirma est. Beneath the castles, the common populace subscribed to a competing, yet equally flawed, paradigm, superstition. Their animistic beliefs were a crude system of propitiation and ritual, devoid of true understanding. They crafted votive offerings to what they termed guardian spirits, the Watchers, to ward off the evil spirits they identified as the beasts. This is the logic of primitives, a failure to quantify the true enemy. Ignorantia est haeresis. Both systems of belief were incorrect. Ingesting correlated data ghosts from the Dark Age reveals the appalling reality, the absolute truth of Caliban. The Watchers were no spirits, but an ancient diminutive xenos species engaged in a silent war. The beasts were not simple predators, nor phantoms of folklore. They were biological symptoms, cancerous flesh puppets of a vast and unnameable warp corruption. The malignancy was not native to Caliban. It was a contagion that threatened the galaxy itself. Against such an abyss, against the forces from the outer dark, only one truth remains. Solum in mortem finiat officium. The Astartes Zahariel, operating on incomplete tactical data, concluded the Watchers' function was the extermination of Caliban's megafauna. A simple, linear threat assessment. The Watchers corrected this error, recalibrating his narrow, planetary worldview. Ignorantia est haeresis. His perception was confined to the surface, to the tangible threat he could slay. The truth of their purpose was far more complex. They were not beast hunters. They were wardens dedicated to thwarting a singular ancient evil that underpins reality itself. Cogitating. The great beasts of Caliban were revealed to be nothing more than a surface-level variable, a localized symptom of a festering, galactic illness. They were not the root cause. They were an effect, irrelevant to the true conflict. The true threat, the unnameable evil, was shown to be the ultimate bane of the human race, a force poised to eventually consume all. Solum in mortem finiat officium. For Zahariel, the scale of the war had just expanded beyond comprehension. Analysis of xenos designate, Watchers, yields a recurring conclusion, a fundamental error in the human biocognitive architecture. They identify an insatiable drive for knowledge as a fatal flaw. This is an incomplete assessment, but it correctly identifies the point of failure. Caro infirma est.
Your race already knows too much and seeks to tamper with things that should never be.
Cogitating, sun null for Watchers. Logic is primitive. They fear knowledge. We seek it. Their error is one of perspective. The flaw is not the drive to understand, but the organic vessel's susceptibility to corruption from unsanctioned data streams. The machine is pure. These forbidden elemental forces are nothing more than chaotic, illogical energies, scrap code of the highest order, anathema to the divine logic of the Omnissiah. To touch them with unprotected organic senses is to invite systemic collapse. Therefore, the prediction of EI, galactic suffering, is statistically inevitable. An uncontrolled biological variable curiosity will always cascade into catastrophe. The tactical directive is unambiguous. Impurum luit. This inherent defect, however, is not a terminal diagnosis for the species. It is a problem awaiting a superior solution. Ferra metallica perpetitur. Where the flesh fails, it is the duty of the blessed machine to provide correction and control. Analysis of the Calibanite Codex reveals a fundamental system vulnerability. A recursive, self-propagating error state designated the SADI, doom feedback loop. The initial variable is human existence itself. This confirms a core tenet of the cult mechanicus. Caro infirma est. The biological state generates chaotic, non-deterministic outputs, emotion and curiosity. These psychic energies are harvested by hostile entities in the warp. Designated here as the Eiger, ancient evil, the Astartes Zahariel's query on how to defeat this system was, by definition, illogical. Empowered by this bio-emotional fuel, the ancient evil manifests material corruption and demonic incursions, which in turn preys upon human existence, perpetuating the cycle. The logical response is clear. Impurum luit.
Evil such as this can never be defeated. It can be held at bay for a time, but so long as there are humans, it will exist.
The Watchers, Conclusion is axiomatically correct. The failure state is inherent to the organic substrate. Humanity is the engine of its own damnation. A war that cannot be won is not a war. It is a parameter, a condition to be managed or transcended. The flesh fails. Ferrum tolerat. Analysis of the event log indicates the Watchers in the Dark did not perceive Zahariel as a simple Astartes. Their non-verbal, telepathic communication registered the elemental magic of the warp awakening within his mind. Caro infirma est. The biological is ever a vector for such uncontrolled phenomena. This psychic potential rendered him a dire threat, a conduit for Empyrean corruption, a potential failure point in the grand schematic of the Lion's Crusade. Yet this same taint made him a kindred weapon against the beasts of Caliban, a living blade sharpened by the very forces it was meant to destroy. For the Watchers, who operate on a logic that transcends simple purity tests, perhaps gladius meius odium est, their verdict was not one of absolution but of cold calculation. They spared him, but designated him as touched by it. He was an accepted, yet inherently dangerous, component in their eternal watch. A piece on the board whose future moves were statistically unpredictable, but the Watchers are patient. Ferrum tolerat. The consequences of this decision, however, would cascade through the Legion, introducing a flaw the coming heresy would exploit with perfect, devastating efficiency. Analysis. Emboldened by a data influx revealing a galactic human diaspora, the Astartes designated Zahariel assumes a posture of fealty. An oath is formulated against an ancient, non-human threat. Ignorantia est haeresis.
I have seen the great work of humanity, and the great darkness that seeks to unmake it. I swear my sword, my shield, my very life to stand against it. Scutum meum fastidium est.
The xenos entities catalogued as the Watchers register the pledge. Cogitation reveals a complete absence of reciprocal camaraderie. Theirs is a cold acceptance, a transaction devoid of inefficient sentiment.
Your fire is bright, Son of Man. We have seen such flames before. They flicker, and they die. The vow is noted.
But their acceptance came with a condition, an ultimatum that contradicted the very vow they had just acknowledged. Impurum luit, but not here, not now.
Leave these woods. The corruption within is contained. It is not for you to disturb. Never return.
The paradox is computationally severe. To accept an instrument of purgation only to forbid its application at the site of infection. This is not the logic of war. It is the logic of the tomb. A logic that dictates some evils are necessary variables in a much larger equation. Zahariel was dismissed. A weapon returned to its sheath. But the encounter uploaded a query into the very core of his being, a scrap code of doubts more virulent than any physical foe. Why would the Watchers protect the very evil he had sworn to destroy?
Look not to unlock the door that leads to easy power.
The warning, delivered by the cryptic entities designated Watchers, dissipates. Moments later, the ambush is sprung. A Calibanite lion, a predator of monstrous repute, bursts from the forest. The Astartes Zahariel is caught in a state of tactical vulnerability. Survival subroutines calculate a 98.7% probability of fatality through conventional means. Caro infirma est. In this moment of biological failure, he reaches for an illogical, unquantifiable solution. He deliberately accesses the latent, forbidden psychic taint within his genetic code. The raw energy of the immaterium floods his consciousness, not as chaotic vision, but as a stream of pure, anatomical data. The beast's internal structure is laid bare, the pulsing heart, the branching arteries, the stress points in its skeletal frame. His blade strikes not with brute force, but with impossible precision, severing vital systems. The lion collapses, inert. The threat is neutralized, survival is achieved, and the warning is instantly, irrevocably broken. A forbidden protocol has been executed successfully, and the path of easy power is now a logged, repeatable event. Analysis of archival data reveals a recurring pattern of systemic failure, exemplified by the entity designated Zahariel. His survival is a data point in the tragic curve of the Imperium's decay. Step 1. Hubris. The subject believed a blade of mere forged metal could negate cosmic malice, an illogical premise. Caro infirma est. Step 2. Desperation. Ambushed by a Calibanite lion, a native mega-predator, the subject's biological survival protocols were overwhelmed. This flawed biological logic dictates that any action is preferable to the logical conclusion of mission failure. An inefficient doctrine. Step 3. The door unlocked. To survive, the subject instinctively utilized a latent psychic taint, a direct contamination, to tamper with the warp. Ignorantia est haeresis. Step 4. The doom. The inevitable, predictable conclusion. By drawing upon Empyrean power, Zahariel provided sustenance to the very malignancy he had sworn to purge. Solum, in mortem finiat officium. But this subject's duty was not terminated, it was corrupted, its function inverted to serve the enemy it was programmed to destroy. This pattern is not an anomaly, it is a feature of the human condition. The data proves it. The fall is not a prophecy, it is a calculation. Data stream initiated. Subject: Zahariel of the 1st Legion. He emerges from the forests of Caliban, his biosignature permanently altered. He is designated a hero by his peers, a flawed, emotional designation. He carries a burden of cosmic secrets, inefficiently stored in malleable neural engrams. This knowledge isolates him from his secular brethren. Analysis confirms the biological mind is an inadequate vessel for such truths. Caro infirma est. The entities designated, Watchers, possess superior comprehension. Their logic engine concludes the ultimate truth. The species, humanity, is a recursive paradox, both victim and eternal instigator of its own programmed demise. Unlike flesh, therum tolerat. The Watchers recede into the shadows, resuming their function, an endless, inefficient vigil over a galaxy accelerating towards a predictable, chaotic terminus. For them it seems, solum in mortem finiat officium. This data chronicle is now complete. Soli Omnissiah gloria. Subscribe to the data vaults for future knowledge streams. In the comments below, input the coordinates for the lore our auspex must scan next. May the motive force guide your circuits. Deus ex machina.